This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk, please read the Open Public Meeting Act.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the February 12, 2019 work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing, followed by the invocation by Councilman Will Geltieri. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the Republic for which remain standing.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Thank you. Madam Master Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase, Councilwoman Francois, Councilman Galtieri,
Here.
Mayor Kramer, Councilman Onijaka,
Here.
Councilman Prasad,
Here.
Councilwoman Pruitt, Deputy Mayor Vasanella,
Here.
Councilman Wright.
It's working. So we're on to proclamations and commendations. And first proclamation is to honor John Clyde. So, proclamation. Whereas John Clyde faithfully served to the Township Council, on the Township Council for 16 years, and was appointed Deputy Mayor in 2000 and Mayor in 2001. And whereas John's death leaves our community with a deep feeling of sorrow for the loss of such an honored and respected citizen. And whereas after John's tenure on the Township Council, he continued to serve the community as a member of the Environmental Commission, Open Space Advisory Committee, Trails Advisory Committee, Library Board of Trustees, and the Raritan and Millstone River Flood Control Commissions. And whereas the Township of Franklin is deeply indebted to John for his service to our community, and whereas John's service was given with such devotion that he earned the respect, admiration, and friendship of all of the citizens of our community through his professional leadership and dedication. Now, therefore, I, Philip Kramer, Mayor, on behalf of the Township Council and citizens of the Township of Franklin, in recognition of John's many contributions to our township and its citizens, hereby express our deep appreciation for his dedication to the progress of this community and extend to his family our sincere sympathy upon his passing. I was planning to say my words about John during council comments. I guess I can say them now as it's appropriate. I met John right there, right in this hallway or this aisle, right near the end, about the second row. I know exactly where I was standing. Chip Hoover introduced me to him, and and this is very much what I said at his wake, at John's wake. He introduced him to me as a former mayor, and that was back in a time when those kinds of things impressed me. And what I took away from that, I don't remember what we talked about, but what I remember is he treated me like the most important person in the world. And that was John. All the time, every time, you were the most important person in the world to him. And he attacked all of his all of his endeavors with the town, everything that he tried to do with the town with fervor and with joy and the joy of being alive yet another day with all he had gone through. I remember when Mayor Kelly and I were having a little bit of a row. He stepped in to the middle and with about 10 words calmed it all down. He just was amazing that way, and I hope someday to learn how to do such things as well as he did. Any other council members want to talk now, or you can speak at the time of your council comments? Okay, if no one else wishes to speak now, we have another commendation, and this is for the gazebo. So why don't we have everyone who was involved with the gazebo, it might empty the room here, come on up. Come on, don't be shy. Mr. Vornlocker, you should come up too. You had a little hand in it. It's up to you. So I'd like to take credit for writing this, but I can't. Yeah. You can now guess who wrote it. But it's long, and okay. Commendation, whereas the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council is a township committee established by council resolution in 2011 and is dedicated to strengthening the Franklin community through the arts, and whereas the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council recognized our community's need for an open-air venue to showcase diverse art offerings for all disciplines as well as other civic events, and whereas research indicates that the arts are a key driver and catalyst for fueling economic and community development, attracting outside investment and tourism, fostering civic engagement, building skills and enhancing educational opportunities for youth, and defining civic identity and creating a more connected community. Whereas the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council partnered with the East Millstone Historic Society to organize and administer a tremendously successful fundraising campaign, and whereas the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council coordinated a broad-based partnership with private citizens, nonprofits, and local businesses to raise over $125,000 in cash and in-kind donations, and whereas the Franklin Township Cultural Arts organized the design and construction of a beautiful 1,200 square foot fully assembled performance gazebo, fully accessible performance gazebo, and whereas the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council has successfully overseen the gifting of the fully funded gazebo to the Township of Franklin, Somerset, New Jersey. Now, therefore, I, Philip Kramer, Mayor of the Township of Franklin and the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council, residents, and staff, do hereby commend the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council and volunteers for their services to our community and express our thanks and sincere wishes for their continued dedication. So that was the official commendation. So thank you all for doing that. I in particular want to thank John Felix, the chair of Cultural Arts, Bill Grippo, the fundraising chair, Michael Steinbrook, the special projects manager, John Hurling, who is representing the East Millstone Historic Society. Also Safi and Zach and everyone else, Bob, Vince Lupo, Carl Hauk, they all dedicated themselves to this. I do want to mention how this started. I got a call from Mr. Grippo one day and said, "Would you meet me from coffee?" And I can point to the exact seats we sat on in Dunkin' Donuts. And actually, I offered Starbucks, and he's a Dunkin' Donuts man. May not have known that about him.
I do that every morning.
And he sat down, and he just basically said, I'm retiring soon, and I want to give a gift to the town. And that was his brainchild. He didn't do it alone. He couldn't have done it alone, but it wouldn't have happened without him. And he deserves a hand for that. So, John, how are you? Why don't you say a word?
Okay.
Take the
Thank you very much.
proclamation.
I will, sir. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for this, and the author of the commendation, my partner in crime, Michael, thank you for this. I just want to offer a few words of gratitude to the township, and to avoid missing anyone, I'll read a prepared statement. In the fall of 2017, the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council leadership was approached by Bill Grippo, a longtime resident of Franklin, with a vision of creating a permanent physical space in the form of a gazebo, which will serve as a hub for the arts in Franklin, vis-a-vis performance, visual, and literary arts. During the ensuing months, we appeared in this chamber on 2 separate occasions to respectively present the concept of the gazebo and seek your approval and support for the construction of the gazebo. And for the next year or so, our much appreciated partnership with the East Millstone Historical Society yielded a successful fundraising campaign in which local businesses and fellow residents, including council members, graciously contributed to the construction of the beautiful structure that sits adjacent to the library, the Performance Arts Gazebo. As co-chair of the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council, and with confirmation from John Hurlin, who represents the East Millstone Historical Society and acted as treasurer for the fundraising campaign, I can assure you, and I'm speaking to the council and the public now, I can assure you that we have written confirmation from the gazebo's builder, B&L Woodworking, that, and this is in quote, the 30 by 38 vinyl oval gazebo for Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council East Millstone Historical Society that was built and constructed by B&L Woodworking LLC has been paid in full on January 30th, 2019. And that's the end of the quote. I can also report the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council received written assurances from our in-kind donors that their respective donations were gifts to the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council, and no monies or services are owed to these institutions or individuals or businesses. And we'll enter the documents as evidence for the gazebo's solvency. Hence, we return with a gift today. The Franklin Township leadership and its members, in collaboration with the East Millstone Historical Society, proudly presents the Performance Arts Gazebo to the Township of Franklin and asserts its stewardship to the council under the mayorship of the Honorable Phil Kramer. The gazebo, with its 8 columns, symbolically represents the 8 villages of our beloved community. We envision active engagement of the community with the gazebo and a robust and continuous use of the gazebo by local artist organizations with the ultimate objective of increasing the participation of the arts in Franklin. John Hurling, in his capacity as treasurer, will attest to the solvency of the gazebo, followed by Mike Standbrook, who will offer a few comments on the gazebo, and finally Bill Grippo will speak to the fundraising campaign. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. I'll keep it very, very short. I just wanted to say that in the spirit through which the gazebo was built, which was highly collaborative, working with residents, businesses, good folks at the township, SAFI support of the Cultural Arts Council and all of our steering committee members, now the work really begins, right? So we want to continue to create programming through the use of that venue to really strengthen and bring our community together through diverse programming and events. We're working on a program, and we'll be looking for money to pay for all that, of course. But I have no worries there. But we're looking to do a lot in the future. So I really want to invite everyone on council and everyone who may hear or watch this to contribute to that planning. So we may have some events to bring people together to really think about it, but that's really the important thing. All right, so thank you very much.
Historical Society has enjoyed partnering with the Cultural Arts Council to complete this project. As treasurer of the East Millstone Historical Society, I can attest that the funding has been completed, all contractor invoices have been paid, and the checks have cleared. We are happy to help provide the township with this excellent resource for the people of Franklin Township.
This is like a ceremony at a bank.
I think this is the first time I've written a speech in my tenure in Franklin. I always talk off the cuff, but for the sake of time and to make sure I don't forget the right people. And I just want to say that I wish John Clyde was here tonight. He was a big cheerleader for this and everything else we do in Franklin. His spirit will be on those 8 columns because he represented all of it. Members of council and friends of the gazebo, tonight is a very special evening for us all in Franklin Township. It has been my honor to have worked with so many fine people to make this vision come to reality. The beautiful gazebo that sits only yards away from us was the work of many hands, many minds, and a lot of shoe leather. The total fundraising amounted to over $125,000 in value. The dollar amount raised was $75,000, approximately, and the amazing in-kind donations of concrete, topsoil, landscaping, supplies for the project valued over $50,000. Major financial contributors included the Sadhani Foundation. The Steve Zavatnik is my best friend, passed away. His family and friends raised over $12,000. The Micro Corporation, Assemblyman Joseph Danielson and his friends. Joe reached out to many donors when I called him. He reached out and raised a tremendous amount of money. There are many others listed on the plaque that you see outside. They're giving over $1,000, including major gifts from the PBA and the Franklin Township Educational Association. The in-kind material and labor heroes included businesses like Farmer Nursery, Cedar Hill Landscaping, Trap Rock. They've been here forever. They're wonderful. Franklin Electric, Monarch Electric, Clayton and Murray Concrete. Over 100 yards of concrete form the base of the gazebo. It's used to create the base and the sidewalks. Can you imagine the Jefferson Memorial, how many yards of concrete that must have? From the very first moment when I spoke to Assemblyman Danielson about this in passing, he suggested contact the mayor immediately, which I did. We met in Dunkin' Donuts. And Phil Kramer was with this idea 100% from day one. 100%. Didn't have to twist his arm, nothing. And he said to me, you have to contact the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council. And that led me to 2 amazing gentlemen, John Felix and Michael Steinbrook. Mike and John worked shoulder and shoulder with me on every aspect of the project and sweated out the anticipation of every fundraising dollar. They are amazing. And these 2 guys are the future of the arts with the council and the gazebo, and the gazebo is in great hands with them. We were most fortunate to have the patience and excellent bookkeeping of East Millstone resident John Hurling. His constant trips to the mailbox gave the project hope as checks came in. Especially thanks to Zachary Leachman for guiding our meetings and record keeping, and of course Safi for being kind of a watchdog. And Bob Vornlacher and I had many wonderful conversations, right, Bob? This July 3rd, this is the night we do our fireworks. There'll be a welcoming band that Mike's going to get together on the gazebo as the crowds enter the main arena, which is where we have the stage by the villagers. But this first time, the gazebo will be dressed in red, white, and blue. I'm going to get emotional. It's going to be great. And it's going to be our opportunity as Franklin to thank America for our freedoms and our independence. Thank you.
Everybody come on up here, stand this way, face.
Come on, John.
Well done, guys. Okay. It is now time for public discussion. Do I have a motion to open for public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no debate. All in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The meeting is now open for public discussion. Anyone may come up and speak on anything to do with government, limited to 5 minutes, no yielding of time. You may only come up once. You should address the council. Go ahead. Name and address.
Cy Phillips, Rupert Drive, Somerset.
You are not allowed to destroy the equipment.
I'm trying not to. Mayor,
You need to go right into the mic.
Okay, that's okay. So Mayor Kramer and Franklin Township Council members, thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. I speak as a resident of Franklin Township, but also part of a group called the Fair and Welcoming Communities Coalition of Somerset County. By pure coincidence, about 1 year ago today, I spoke for the first time at this Township Council meeting on the topic of immigration, which has been and is still so very polarizing now. About 1 year ago, I spoke specifically about our neighbor and fellow Franklin Township resident, an immigrant father who was picked up by ICE and detained when he was at the school bus stop in the morning when dropping off his kids at school. His U.S. citizen children, I think, are still attending Franklin Township Public Schools. If you haven't already heard, there's great news, and Mr. Liam was released from immigrant detention last November 2008, just before Thanksgiving. I didn't know the Liam family last February, but since have gotten to know them. I've gotten to know Mrs. Liam and the two kids, not very well, but well enough that I got a text from Mrs. Liam, and she was so very grateful and considered it a blessing that he was finally coming home. It was indeed great news that he was released from detention, but the bad news is why he was detained at all, and why a local Franklin family had to be separated. Separated for 10 months, from January to November, experiencing 10 months of missed birthdays, missed anniversaries, and missed moments that they'll never get back. Around the same time last November, there's another bit of good news affecting immigrant families at a statewide level here in New Jersey. Our New Jersey Attorney General issued a new directive for law enforcement called the Immigrant Trust Directive. You have copies on your table there, and for anyone that is looking for more information, there's a website called nj.gov/trust where you can find out more information. While issued last November, the directive is scheduled to be effective this March 2019, which is next month. The directive provides, and I quote, "new rules designed to strengthen trust between law enforcement officers and immigrant communities." The rules limit the types of assistance that New Jersey state and local law enforcement officers may provide to federal immigration authorities, including ICE. I want to say that trust is built in a community when its residents are able to call and interact with local police without fearing that their local police will turn them in to ICE to be deported. Victims and witnesses of crimes should feel safe when reporting to local authorities, and our communities will be safer because of that trust and feeling of safety. Trust is built in a community when its residents feel welcomed, supported, and valued by their local government and local community leaders. Before March 2019, and again I quote from the directive summary, New Jersey's law enforcement agencies must update current policies to comply with the directive and train all officers before March 2019. Will you, Mayor Kramer, and other Franklin Township Council members help to build trust in our community?
Certainly wish to.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Lee. I'm in 108 Kingsbury Drive, right up the road here in Franklin. And just to follow up with what Cy said, the Immigrant Trust Directive comes into force this March. And the town, all the local police and jail officials in New Jersey should already be receiving training and getting up to date on the new procedures. Do you guys know if the town police here have know of this directive?
So I don't know if they know of this directive. One thing I would say, I talked to the chief of police 3 weeks ago or so and asked if he had any contact with ICE in the last year, and there was zero contact, not a phone call, nothing.
Okay, so yeah, so they might have to like send out memos to the officers and make sure that their training is up to date.
They're
We
very
get
good
this
at keeping their training up to date, but I'll ask them specifically about this.
Okay, all right, thank
Through
you.
the manager. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak? Kelly, Mayor Kelly, excuse me.
Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. Chris Kelly, Hilltop Lane, Somerset, New Jersey. I'm coming here just to point out there's Resolution 19-88 that will be coming up on the voted on separately section later on. Earlier today and over the past several weeks, I'd been conversing with Mayor Kramer about about 6 Mile Run and a few properties in there that have owned by the state that have fallen into disrepair. For those of you that don't know, 6 Mile Run is a National Historic District. It was put on the National Registry in 1995. It encompasses about 4,000 acres of Franklin Township. It is part of 6 Mile Run Reservoir / Delaware Raritan Canal State Park. The state started buying properties in the 50s and 60s with the idea of turning this area into a reservoir. In the state's infinite wisdom, this property would not hold water and is not suitable for a reservoir. So the state DEP transferred this property to the Department of Parks and Forestry, who manages the property. Okay, that's the general background. There are several houses that, in my amateur investigation, have been built in the late 1700s to 1830s, I'm sorry, that the state, I believe, it's been an out of sight, out of mind type scenario. There's been some dumping of materials that shouldn't be in a state park. Tires, car batteries, old engine oil, 55-gallon drums, oil tanks. There's some pictures I gave to the clerk to pass around as well. So what my ask and or request, if the council sees fit, I had met a few times with our assemblyman. I'm meeting with the head of the Parks and Forestry in hopes of convincing and or shaming the state to cleaning up the property itself, cleaning up the debris and the materials there, and with the grand hopes of having them preserve some of the property, some of the houses and historic farmsteads on the property as the long-range goal. I'm not asking for the town or the open space or the environmental commission to provide any monies or anything, but if you see fit and you see there is some cultural significance to this area and think it should be preserved, that is the basic resolution for later on this evening. So that is what I'm asking. Are there any questions or comments? I don't know how many I can actually answer. But I see there are, for those of you who don't know, also, there are many people that use this park on the mountain biking trails, the running trails, the hiking trails. It's beautiful when it's heavy rain. There are 2 small waterfalls. The state came by very recently when the mayor and I were on our Trails Advisory Commission. The state was so generous as to find a bridge in, find an extra bridge they had laying around in Spruce Run Reservoir, and they were nice enough to put it in our park. So that said, I think my time was just up. So if you do have any questions or comments, feel free. But like I said, I'm not asking for any donations, any money, nothing financial, no burden, just a we think it is viable or not. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Hi, Christina Zambri, 3 Buffett Drive, Somerset. I wanted to come up here mostly to talk about what I viewed and was greatly disturbed by at the latest Human Relations Commission meeting. I saw the video of it after the fact and was deeply, deeply disturbed by the language that was used by Mr. Tibbs and the fact that it was allowed by Councilman Prasad. We may not have gone through or were able to get the recall done, but by no means are we done with Prasad. And the fact that this council chose to reappoint him this year to the Human Relations Committee, given his behavior and his censuring by this council, just is another example of the Township Council ignoring the people. Did you guys learn absolutely nothing from everything that happened last year? Why would you put someone who is opposed by Democrats, Republicans, coming in all shapes, colors, and sizes, religions, why would you put him back in a role of human relations? That blows my mind. Do his actions have the approval and agreement of the town council, including the comments that Mr. Tibbs made, that the people who are calling for Prasad to resign are a hate group? Because there's always silence from the council. Somehow we're the hate group, but others are allowed to go around calling us racists, etc., and demonizing us and putting us into a corner. And you're silent, and then you go and reappoint him again to a Human Relations Committee, and you have a self-proclaimed racist on the commission. So, again, the councils once again continue to lose our trust, and your decision-making definitely leaves a lot to be questioned. And I'm wondering, too, if it has simply become the norm to call out anybody who disagrees with government a hate group or a racist, because that seems to be prevalent not only in this town, but in the state and all over the country. And it's sad when people in their own town can't stand up for what they believe in without the fear of being called a racist or a hate group. It's become far too easy to do that, and it's a cop-out. So how long will this rhetoric be able to go on while you guys condone it by your silence? Does anybody up there agree that this is okay, that we have a racist, self-proclaimed racist, on the town council meeting, and that we have someone who was censured heading up the Human Relations Committee? Once again, your silence speaks volumes.
Santosh Kevalu, 14 Girard Avenue, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873. Today is really a bittersweet day for me. As many who are here, I'd like to remember John Clyde, who gave me the time as an immigrant when I was at St. Matthias Parish. We used to meet, and I will miss him at the parking and security at the St. Matthias Carnival. But really today I'm not angry, but I'm disappointed with this council for putting up with Prasad's transgressions. You have chosen party politics over the people of Franklin. I'm really disappointed in Prasad for your decision to stay on the council and not resign and let Franklin move forward. Looks like this is power to you. If you are really a true public servant, you should resign. I have always been on the sidelines and served Hamilton Business District. Mr. Vasanala was invited to one of the first dinners in the church. Franklin Soccer Club. If you want to serve, you can do it from the sidelines. Let Franklin move forward. Franklin has a long history of diversity and inclusion. Race is not the issue here. The issue is the failure of this council to deal with a council member who has proven he cannot and will not represent the people of Franklin. In order to restore our community and faith in our public servants, I call on you, Prasad, to resign so Franklin can move forward. It is an irony that we as immigrants, we have been blessed to be in a great country like USA. I became a proud citizen of this great nation in 2008. And today I'm here with a different 10-year kind of a challenge. After doing a great soul searching, I'm going to be changing my party from a Democratic Party to Republican. This is not who we are. We are continuing to stand and allow one council member to get away with the things he has done is reprehensible. And some of my friends call me from a party that I was called Uncle Tom. I don't know. If I differ with somebody's opinion, and if I don't agree, in a private party, in an Indian community, I was called Uncle Tom. This council has failed to hear the people who have spoken time and time again at this podium. I cannot be part of this inaction any longer. I refuse to be silenced by your inaction. I call upon all of the good Franklin people here to look at this council, specifically at Mr. Prasad, what he has done. And if you do not know, we have a website, Resign Prasad, and what this all-democratic council has chosen to turn a blind eye to. I call on you to join me in switching parties. We, as Democrats, were known as a party of zero tolerance. I'm sure there are some voter registration forms, change of forms available there in the foyer. In closing, this matter is about right and wrong. Not everyone agrees with the policies of every party or every leader. But it is time to restore the trust and accountability and just a common decency that we as Franklin Township residents should demand and should receive from our public servants. So I'm going to be changing the party nomination. It is about time. And like Christina earlier said, and after all that, you appointed him to a Human Relations Committee? What message are we sending to Franklin? What message are we sending to our kids? That, and again, for Prasad to go to that well of racism is appalling. He should be the last person to be telling that, going to the well all the time. Whenever he's in trouble, he goes to the well of racism. As an immigrant, that's really appalling. I thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
Skip Schaefer, 2-layer terrace, Somerset. Mr. Galtieri, I guess things haven't quite died down, have they? Other people tonight might not understand that comment, but I know you do, sir. And actually, I was going to focus my comments on you this evening and how through your general silence regarding Mr. Prasad's actions last year, and his actions from 3 years ago, you have allowed your own personal integrity and reputation to be compromised. But since Mr. Prasad once again made some race-baiting comments a couple of weeks ago, I felt they should be addressed this evening. So, Mr. Prasad, if I was your legal counsel, I would advise you that you have the right to remain silent. Because every time you open your mouth, you stick your size 12 boot in it. Bravo on your Oscar-worthy performance at the last council meeting, where you showed us all your interpretation of righteous indignation. You made a specific comment. I may have a funny-sounding name, and I know I wasn't born in this country. And then you made other comments like how you chose to come to the USA to live, and you wanted to serve your adopted country, yada, yada, yada. What exactly were you implying with that comment, sir? I may have a funny-sounding name, and I know I wasn't born in this country. That people who are opposed to you being on council do so because of your name and your country of birth? Has anyone who has opposed your actions here over the last 3+ years said anything about your name or country of origin? Unless you have video evidence to the contrary, I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no. Stop trying to make race an issue with the people who oppose you when it isn't the issue. That's actually racist behavior on your part. But you demonstrate time and time again that you just don't get it. People in this town don't care where you came from, your religious beliefs, what kind of car you drive. What they care about is that you are an ethically and morally challenged politician who doesn't follow established procedures and protocols, and maybe even laws. What they care about is that you are someone who attacks and bullies people with names like Nazi, skinhead, people who don't want statues of colored people in town. What they care about is that you are someone who tries to use law enforcement to investigate people that don't agree with you. Someone who tries to use law enforcement for favors, for friends. That's what people care about, sir. And then later on, you made some comment about you having been elected to the council 3 times. How is that relevant to your corrupt acts over the last 3+ years? New Jersey has a richly deserved reputation for corrupt politicians. New Jersey voters have a richly deserved reputation for returning corrupt politicians to office because of their laziness in finding other more worthy candidates. Don't underestimate that some voters may eventually wise up and vote for a new face. We saw that happen multiple times over in last November's national elections. Watch what happens this November in our town council elections. The council has said several times that you've done all you can in regards to censoring Mr. Prasad. You have no power to remove him from office. All you can do is censor him. That's not true. You've got Representative Steve King in Ohio. You've got the mess in Virginia. You've got the Secretary of State in Florida, all resigning or being asked to resign, pressured to resign. It's almost a badge of honor to ask somebody in your own party to resign because of their outrageous actions. If you want to do everything you can, you will each stand up and join Mr. Chase, Dr. Chase, and ask for Mr. Prasad's resignation. Mr. Galtieri, I'll see
Time-
you in 2 weeks
time's
unless
up.
Mr. Prasad
Time's up.
contracts foot and
Mr.
mouth disease
Schaefer,
again.
time is up. Anyone else wishing to speak?
John Meyer, 43 Townsend Court. Well, here we are again, and it's the same thing I understand over and over, and you all must be pretty tired of hearing it. But it keeps coming up because of what's going on. Now it's been repeated again, and I was going to make a comment about it because I wasn't here at the last meeting, about, yeah, what you said, Prasad, about the funny name thing. So you think I don't like what you did because of your name? When my mother immigrated here legally in the early 70s, her maiden name was Sachiko Sato, okay? So that's not where it's coming from. And where I grew up, until we moved to New Jersey, I was the only kid in school that was not white. So I know all about that too. And that's not the issue here. Now we have a lot of the members that came from the now resigned Prasad. It's pretty multicultural.
Have to address the council.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, I'm not addressing them. I'm just stating, look, it's multicultural. It's about procedure. And you know, these claims of racism where you use it, first of all, to claim victimhood about it, and then turn around and weaponize it to try to intimidate people who don't agree with you, trying to label us that way. Many times. Now, I feel sorry for Mayor Kramer. I was at a meeting where people were saying he was a racist. I feel bad for him. Why? Because he won't stop us from talking? Ridiculous. You know, and at that same meeting, you know, this gets thrown around where we're a hate group, yet a recognized hate group spoke at that Parkside meeting. Right in there, I'm pretty sure you can look it up, according to Southern Poverty Law Center, listed right there, Nation of Islam, hate group. and they're not even trying to veil it. In that meeting, the Reverend gave a little anecdote, you know, trying to be like unity in the community, saying where bullets don't discriminate, and gave his little story. And when it came time in the story to illustrate that point, he said the bullet won't go around the Christian and hit the Jew. Wow. The only time I heard Jew that whole night was when it was time for somebody to get hit by a bullet in that story. Ridiculous. And these claims, you know, and the rant that I have on tape of Tibbs being homophobic and bigoted. Can't believe that guy's on the Human Relations Committee. You too. Plus, they put you in charge of open space. Huh. With everything that's happened, or on that committee, with everything that's happened, I think that's like putting the fox in guarding the hen house. Absolutely ridiculous. So where does it stop? And when are you going to quit using it that way? I just can't believe it. It's sad that we have to be here again and again, and we have to come out in like this just to prove it. You know, I've heard a couple times that, oh, only a few of the same people keep showing up that oppose this. Well, there's a lot today, but yet every time there's these meetings, only 3 people ever show up for him. So we already have that number beat. So where does it lie at this point? I don't know. And I don't know what the resolution here is, because he won't leave, and I guess you guys are left with no recourse to be able to dismiss him. I know you did the censor, but I don't really know what that ended up doing ultimately. So, you know, we can only come up here and vent our frustration and see what happens at this point. You know, I love living in this town. This town's diverse. I've never had a problem with any kind of racism here until these. I've never heard about it. So you're manufacturing it. It's not here. I've heard many people come up here and say it's not here. But you make it here. It's sad.
Good evening. Richard Seaman, 34 Rue Chagall. It's been a difficult year for our township, and I was hoping, coming here tonight, to find a better environment, but unfortunately, that's not what I found. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing for our community. It's personally disappointing for me. I've made my personal commitment to the township for years and will continue to do so. And I just hope that that we can find our way to a better place reasonably soon. And to that point, there are a number of wonderful things going on, and that's really what I came here tonight to talk about. Well, first of all, the gazebo, I did not know that was happening tonight. It's a wonderful project. Will serve our community for many years, and it shows what the power of volunteerism will do. And I think volunteerism, many times we talk about that our diversity is our strength, and it certainly is. But I think one of the things that really is an undercurrent of this township is volunteerism. It's just everywhere. It's everywhere, and folks in this town, no matter who they are so happy to come out and give their time, give a little bit of money, and support our programs. And that's a wonderful thing, and that's really what I wanted to talk about. A couple of things this year coming up. The Franklin Township Soccer Club, which I'm an executive board member of. I've been so for 10 years now, and there's a few other board members here in the audience happen to be here tonight as well. This year is our 40th year being a volunteer organization for Franklin Township. And for the first time, a group of folks have gotten together, and they're going to run a tournament this spring with teams from other towns utilizing Middlebush Park. And it's a wonderful opportunity for our township and certainly for our club and for the folks that volunteer. And I'm not working with those folks. I'm working more with the rec folks, but it's a real proud moment for the folks who have given so much time to the club. And I think that our township should know about it and should know that these people, just for the love of the game and for the love of doing things for children, have put this together and are going to run it here in Franklin Township on the park that you provided the financing for. And so I wanted to make sure that that was talked about tonight. The second thing I wanted to just mention tonight is a program that's going to be run on March 10th for a fundraiser for the Franklin Food Bank, which is called Empty Bowls. And I would like to thank Bill and PJ, who did a video yesterday and put it up online, and about 1,000 people have seen it already. It's a real grassroots effort by some folks in town to raise money, with the concept being that local artists will create ceramic bowls, and for a fee, you come in, you have a small meal that's donated by local restaurants, and walk out with a handcrafted bowl. And again, that empty bowl that you're getting is, and I'll read this so I don't screw it up, is a reminder of all the empty bowls that are in our community and in the world at large. And so it's a wonderful event. This is the first time and hopefully the first annual. It's on March 10th at the Doubletree Hotel. And I would invite folks from council to attend. You know, please come out and check it out. It's good for our township and good for our larger community. Finally, last thing I just wanted to say is, you know, as you folks know, my Board of Ed tenure is over. I have a little more time in my hands. You know, for a number of years, I've seen the little schoolhouse over here sort of just kind of sit there. And I don't live too far away from here, so I pass it a lot. And, you know, now with the gazebo being established, and hopefully that will be a magnet for folks, especially in the nicer weather months. And having been associated with the school district for such a long time, I see that local little schoolhouse as an opportunity. And I'd love to see something done with it to where it could be some kind of a museum. Maybe not inside, maybe from the outside, maybe with, you know, windows looking inside or whatever. But, you know, I think it's in a great spot because it's central to many of our schools in town. It'd be an easy trip day trip for some classes. Given that the gazebo is here, it's going to draw some folks. If that was there with, you know, with some historical significance that's built in around it, whether with signage or with some restoration, I think that would be a wonderful thing. And you know, if anybody on council or on any of the township committees is interested in talking about that, you know, you guys know where to find me. I would love to volunteer to work on that because, again, I think it's something that can contribute to our townships in a similar way as the gazebo did. So I thank you all very much. Good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just address Mr. Siemens one comment before, I just don't want him to leave, so I want to catch you before you go. So, Mr. Siemens, the issue of the schoolhouse and museums and things like that are a frequent topic of conversation with a group of historic organizations that I've put together that meet on a regular basis and are actually planning an event in May to tour several of the historic sites in Franklin Township, much like the county does on a countywide basis. What I'd suggest that you do is, and I'll certainly be more than happy to email you. I have your email address. I will email you the next time that they're meeting, because one of the discussions is about a township museum on one of the Meadows locations, but also there's been discussion about this to be utilized as a conference room for the township. So just, I'll send that invitation to you. I wanted to catch you in case you were to leave before I get to my report.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Seeing no one come forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Public discussion is closed. We are on to council comments and reports. We will start with you, Mr. Galtieri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start with my comment about the passing of former Mayor Clyde, that he truly was a wonderful man. I mean, knowing him for many years growing up in town and seeing him around. And then as I got older and started coming back into more, doing more in town, he was definitely a voice of reason and a good person to refer to. And as you mentioned, a calming voice too, that I can think of a couple election days where we were going crazy, and he would walk in, just say, "What do you need me to do?" and just do it, and would help settle down. So he truly will be missed, and you know, he holds a special place in a lot of our hearts. Other than that, as far as committees, Sewage Authority had reorg last week, so we've filled most. We filled most of our positions. Commissioner Jallo is in the audience, and welcome back. And I need to talk to you about our previous meeting, catch you up on stuff. But we did have reorganization, and we're continuing to. Thank you again to all the residents for their patience while we were on Easton Ave doing our cleanout. We will be started our 2-year cycle again, so we're on to that. Fire prevention met last Thursday. A reminder, this Saturday are the fire budget elections, I believe from 2 to 9 at each of the district houses. Please correct me if I'm wrong with that. I want to make sure I don't. But as Councilman Wright had pointed out last meeting, this is an opportunity for you to vote in regarding the budgets for each fire district. So if you are around, please get out and vote. And then finally, we had Public Works tonight, but I will defer to Councilman Chase or Deputy SNL for their comments on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Onijaka.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I will say I'm deeply saddened by the death of former Mayor Clyde. In fact, when I met him was when I was running for my election. During my first time, I was running for my election. That's when I met him. And he worked very hard and contributed towards my success. So, and I felt his death. I pray that may our Lord receive his souls and give him a perfect peace and rest. Secondly, I just saw one of our stakeholders in African community here. He just left. He just came back from his tour, Dr. Honorable Jallo. think he just walked out here. So I just want to use this privilege and to welcome him back. And the Mayor, I think that this is it, what I have for today.
Thank you very much. Councilman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I need everyone to screw themselves in. I got a lot to report. First, we're going to start off with the redevelopment / land use meeting, because on the redevelopment agency, which has jurisdiction of a little spot of Franklin Boulevard, Route 27, and then to the interior of Hamilton Street, we discussed 619 Somerset Street. The agency received a concept plan for potential development of the Frank's Hardware site and some of the surrounding properties involving a climate-controlled self-storage facility and 2 new retail pads along Somerset Street. If the concept moves forward, requested council actions may be required, including amending the redevelopment plan, expanding the redevelopment zone, and vacation of undeveloped Property Street and portion of Kevin Apuzu Avenue with the existing improved street remaining. Now, I stumbled on that, but I want to go back to Kevin Apuzu, and I want to throw it down to the township manager to explain exactly who he or what he was and what did he do.
So Kevin Apuzio was a firefighter with the East Franklin Fire Department who was killed in the line of duty a number of years ago in a fire. And I'm going to say it was on Whittier Avenue. And the street off of Somerset Street in the area of Frank's Hardware that you're speaking about was renamed from Alexander Avenue to Kevin Apuzio Avenue not long after his death.
Make sure. Okay, and the land use side, part of that Dr. Chase will bring in because he's on the planning board, zoning board, so I definitely want him to do a little explaining there. The youth center, the committee received a status update. It's expected the township will purchase the property for the parking lot in March. The capital ordinance for the fund for the parking lot is due on 1/22 and will be adopted at 2/12. That would mean this evening, correct?
Correct.
The capital ordinance to fund the youth center to be introduced on 4/23 and will be on the adoption for 5/14. Now, I'm going to stop there. When will the residents have the time to weigh in on that ordinance, or is that just
Tonight.
tonight?
No, no. The ordinance for the acquisition of the parking lot is tonight. There has been no ordinance introduced on the youth center at this date.
I thought that's
So-
what he was asking.
No, what he's asking for is when they'll be able to weigh in on the youth center. So the proposed schedule that was provided to you by Vincent Dominic, the Economic Development Director, is what you're citing there as far as the proposed schedule for introduction of ordinances, capital ordinances for the youth center and the like. There's also will not be an opportunity, and there'll be a notification for all those residents in the affected area will receive a notification by mail. There'll be a review of the plans by the planning board, and I'm stuck for a date right now, but I'm looking at Mr. Dominic. March 20th, thank you. So on March 20th, the planning board will review the plans that have been developed for the youth center by our architect and engineers. And then subsequent to that, the ordinance would be introduced and then subsequently adopted, hopefully, by council with a public hearing here as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
No problem.
Kiefer Drive and Bennett's Lane. Now, this one is very important because this is sort of giving back, sort of inviting, sort of taking care of our own people, and that is in regards to Alzheimer's patients. The committee was briefed on the future application before the zoning board to build a 15-bed assisted living home for Alzheimer's patients off of Bennett's Lane. The assisted living home will replace a 3-lot subdivision, cul-de-sac roadway, and detention basin previously approved for the site. If approved by the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the proposal will involve council action to vacate the right-of-way for the previous proposed land. Now, that's a good thing to have. I don't know what my fellow council members would think or anything of that nature, or even the general population at large, but when you see something like this come up, you can't help but want to go for it because it's very important to us. I know Councilman Vassanello was speaking up about this because he definitely wanted us to go on with this program, so I want to thank Councilman Vassanello for his input on that. Catalpa update. The project is under the NJDEP permitting review, aligning the high driveway required review. Now I'm going to stop right there because that part really got me there. Dr. Chase, you want to go through that right quick? Okay. Then we'll do the Consulata update. Deputy Mayor? You'll do that one there? You'll do the Consulata? Okay. So what I'm going to do is, the last thing we had was the 690 Somerset Street, but we did that under redevelopment, so that's part 1 and 2. Then we're going to go back to I gotta find it again. It's our Recreation Advisory Committee. Okay. I am more than sure everyone received in the mail their Somerset Camp sheet, newspaper, letter in the mail, on the doorstep, that told you exactly what was offered, can be offered here in Franklin Township for the youth. I'm more than sure everybody got one of those. But I want to make sure everybody sends it back in with a check. I want everybody to make use of what we offer here in Franklin Township. Some of the programs go thirsting for kids to want to come out. No one comes out. One of the things you'll see as an ordinance here is the Neiman Williams pool, which came up during our budget hearings last night with the township manager talking about putting it on there ASAP. Bob, do you want to just explain why that was?
The pool is in need of major repair, and we want to ensure that the pool is available for the entire summer for the kids to use it. And so I had the Public Works Department prepare the bid specifications to get it out in ample time to have the work done prior to Memorial Day.
So, anybody want to go swimming, please sign up for it. Have your kids sign up for it. They'll teach you how to swim somewhat. You'll play around in the pool. You'll have a lot of other activities, but please do sign up for that activity. You want to play chess? Sign up for chess. We have a chess instructor that will come in and teach you how to play chess. Robotics, we have it. It's just that we need you to come and take advantage of those opportunities. Now that I got that part out the way, one more. Not that one either. I have to go through all these little, meeting. Okay, the meeting that we have at the senior complex, of which is open to the public, but no one ever shows up, but it's open to the public. Couple things that we were looking at. One would be the Franklin Township Baseball League complex. I brought to them that during the games or during the practices, some of the balls are hit over the fence, and people have a thing where they walk into the back of people's yards to pick up the balls and bring them back around. That's something that we looked into, and that definitely have to stop. I had a lot of complaints on that one. We looked at the fact that during the baseball season, when you have that first game, and the police block off the streets, and you have signs put on the trees, and everything is beautiful, sometimes people have a tendency to want to park on people's grass. They think it's free parking, and they'll park on the grass, and that's a no-no. So one of the things that we'll be bringing back to the Township Council as we move forward would be to put curbs up. Curbs will stop you from parking on someone else's property in a heartbeat, because you got to jump up on the curb. So that's one thing that we'll bring to the council later on. Nets, we were looking at nets to stop the balls from going over into people's backyards. And we're looking to do one of those football nets you see at the bottom of the, at the end of the end zone, where they bring it up so when you kick the ball in, it doesn't go into the crowd, it bounces right back. That's what we're looking to do at the Little League field. And again, Deputy Mayor Vasanella, that's his heart right there. So I should have let him bring that one up, but I missed it. No public comment because nobody was there. That would be it.
Thank you, Councilman Wright. Councilman Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was prepared to make a full report on the Land Use Committee meeting too, but except I knew that Councilman Wright was going to report on the youth center. Just a little bit about Catalpa. Yeah, we're still waiting for the DEP to act on a permit because originally we were going to use the existing bridge over a stream on the Pachalix driveway. And unfortunately, too many people tend to drive up the Pachalix driveway. So we're going to bend the driveway to the tennis courts and bocce ball and so forth part of the Catalpa, across the stream in a different place, and that requires more study by the DEP, but we're still expecting to get the permits at end of February, beginning of March, be able to open bids in April, and construction begin in June. We hope, if the DEP comes through. On the Consolata property, we expect the exchange of property with the Board of Education to be completed very soon. Once that happens, the Board of Education will take over particularly the gym building, which needs a great deal of work. It'll be gutted and the roof replaced. So polling places for the districts that have voted there will be changed. And our proposed budget, incidentally, includes money for a synthetic cricket pitch on the existing cricket field there, which will both allow the cricket field to be used more for cricket, but also, when it's not being used for cricket, be used for soccer and such like, where the clay cricket pitch would get chewed up. We tonight will be introduced an ordinance with some zoning changes prepared by Mark Healy, our Director of Planning. Mainly there in the vicinity of Canal Walk, properties which currently are in the Senior Citizen Village Zone, which was established for Canal Walk, but are not part of that development. The larger lots would be returned to the A zone, which they were previously in. The smaller single-family lots would remain in the SCV zone, but be subject to the R40 requirements. And this would make it possible, for instance, to put on a porch without having to go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. The large field at the southeast corner of Metlers Road and Weston Road, which has been acquired by the county as an addition to Colonial Park, would go from research office laboratory to agriculture. And it's in corn this year, and the flock of sandhill cranes, which have been wintering in that part of Franklin Township for maybe 10 years now. I saw them in that field recently, so I'm hoping that the Parks Commission will keep that being farmed for corn, because that's where the cranes winter, and they're beautiful birds if you go to see them. Also, some lots at the inner ends of Gates and Ellison Roads, which are zoned R20, like lots on the other side of Seeley's Brook, which they really are not connected to, change those to R40 like the rest of the lots on Gates and Ellison Roads. The general impulse throughout is to make the zoning coincide with the actual use. Also, this afternoon we had, just before this meeting, we had a meeting of the Public Works Committee. The Little Rocky Hill water main, the pipelining is a little over half complete. It's shut down for the winter. Work will restart on that in mid-March. They hope to finish in June. Some work is being done now on the pumping station there at the corner of 518 and 27. We were presented with a proposed ordinance on requiring customers who have large water meters. These are nothing to do with residential meters, but for large businesses, for instance, to have these rechecked every year to be sure that they are reporting accurately, that they be within 2% plus or minus of the actual flow. They'll record a flow through them within 2% of the actual flow through them. Some of the irrigation meters have been found to be off by 15%, and this just means they're getting free water and everybody else is paying a little more for their water as a result. So this will come to council shortly. We're also considering a possible ordinance if there's a road opening with a substantial trench or a lot of individual openings, say, to deal with laterals to houses, so that the road is really torn up, requiring PSE&G or whoever it is, it could be even be our sewage authority, to re-mill and repave the entire road for the stretch that has been torn up. But we're not ready to introduce this yet. We're still discussing exactly how to write this ordinance to be fair between the expense to the authority that has torn up the road and the township to get good condition back for the road. Another matter is that a developer doing construction often gets a meter from the water department that they can hook up to a hydrant and use as a water supply while they're under construction before they install the actual water line to whatever it is they're constructing. And unfortunately, some of them don't return the meter. Some of them don't even pay the fees. So we're proposing to increase the escrow and the deposit, the escrow out of which they're fee for the water they use is paid and the deposit to make sure that they do return the meter. And then we were starting to look at list of roads for paving in 2019. We didn't get very far on that, but those are the, oh, and one more thing, and this is something that I guess more or less simultaneously I called to the attention of the Director of Public Works while DPW workers were also studying the situation. There's been a lot of flooding of Canal Road in the last year in the vicinity of 1345 Canal Road that's caused the road to be closed. And what the Public Works workers found was that the pipe underneath the access to the little parking lot where there's a little bridge across the canal, that pipe was partly collapsed and silted up, so it wasn't delivering the water through it, so the water just rose and went across the street. So they've replaced that pipe, and hopefully this problem will be solved. So it's been rather long, but thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Chase. Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Few things to report on. We had the 71st Sri Lankan Day Independence celebrations, and there's about 600 Sri Lankan families living in town, in and around the Buddha on 27. There was also, since the last meeting, the Indian Republic Day, and those celebrations took place as well. It is African American History Month, and I congratulate everybody in the recognition of that history. It's also American Heart Association Month, and so please do take care of your heart and your health. Now to the gazebo, my congratulations to all. It is a welcome addition to our town, and we look forward to a lot of enjoyment from there and the performances there. John Clyde was a big loss, and my condolences to his family. And now, as far as the committee reports are concerned, the Human Relations Commission had a Warriors Forever presentation from the club. Land use has been reported on already by Councilman Wright and Chase. I serve on it with them. And the Community Foundation did meet to discuss the scholarship plan that they have, and the admin committee is supposed to meet, is scheduled to meet.
Will not be meeting this week
Okay.
due to the absence of other members.
Right, so that's to be scheduled, so that's the committee reports. Now, to former Mayor Kelly, thank you for bringing this 6-mile run to our notice, and you have my support on it. And Mr. Seaman, as a former soccer dad, I want to thank you for all you did for the Franklin Township soccer. Both my kids played soccer there at Sampson G. Smith, and wish you luck with your tournament. And the Franklin Food Bank, of course, is something that we all need to support, and you know, you have my full support for that and your Bowls program. The Schoolhouse Museum has already been addressed by the manager, though I was at the LBJ Ranch, and I saw a similar schoolhouse that LBJ himself studied in, and I thought of this schoolhouse as somewhat of a, you know, parallel to what LBJ went to. So It's a good idea. Let's see what, everybody thinks. Now, want to point out that there was a recall petition, and people were going around trying to get recall signatures. The deadline for it was January 22nd, and they were not able to get enough signatures, and hence the recall, which is the democratic right of people to follow, and it failed. Now, this is still a democracy. The voters have spoken. They elected me to a term, and I will fulfill that term to the best of my ability. Now, issues regarding diversity and race relations and conflicts, there are views on all sides of it. I would like to suggest, rather than talking at each other and complaining about each other and people calling each other names, I would suggest that we have a town hall meeting with an expert on race relations who can mediate it, and we can resolve these issues. But to sweep them under the rug or to keep talking about it is not going to solve the problem. So that is my suggestion. You may or may not like it, but it happens to be also 2019 is a campaign year, and it is one that some of you speaking here, I fully expect to be running, but this is not the forum for, if you have ideas, we welcome them. But this is not the forum for your political grandstanding, which is what, if you may disagree with me, but that's my point, that it is a campaign year. I'm just stating a fact, and that's where, it belongs on the campaign trail, and you're free to welcome your, state your point of view. This is a democracy, and you do have the right of free speech, and we all respect that. But at the same time, there are other people who also have the right of free speech, and when they state something, they cannot be told not to speak that way. So that's where I am not the one running the Human Relations Commission. It is run by a chairman. I am there as a council liaison to them. I don't have any vote in there, and I don't have a role to play in there. So for you to expect me to censure somebody, that is not my role in there. There's a chairman that runs that meeting. Now, beyond that, if there's anything I have done to offend anybody, I apologize to you, and I am looking to work towards healing this town, and would like to reach out to all of you and request that we have this town hall meeting at another time, but we can have that and have a resolution of the issues of race relations. And you may or may not agree with me, but at least that is a thought and suggestion that I'm putting forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Pruitt?
Hi, and thank you. I'll just be brief. Apologies that I cannot be there in person, as I am out of the country, quite literally on the other side of the world. But a few committees that I am on have met. Nothing quite to report on as of yet to the greater body. And other than that, I hope you guys will be safe in the snow, and I will not take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Thank you. So my understanding is tomorrow, the clerk told me, is when the do not knock registry, that's I'm calling it that. I'm not sure technically what it will show up as, but this is a online on the township website, the opportunity for anybody who would like to take advantage of the opt-out clause in the ordinance passed in December, so that solicitors, vendors of commercial type that are coming to try to sell you something would pass by your house and not knock on your door. I mean, it sounds too simple, too good to be true, but that's basically what it is. And it should be up and running tomorrow or very soon thereafter. So anybody.
Deputy Mayor? So as a surprise to you, as we kind of plotted and schemed in the background, it is actually up on the clerk's website tonight.
It is.
I'm actually looking at it right now. It's a rather simple form to fill out. It's an online form. If you go to the clerk's portion of the website under the peddling and soliciting section on the left, there's a link to the non-solicitation registration form. It's as simple as name, address, and an electronic signature, and you're good to go. So it'll be rolled out with advertising on social media and the like tomorrow, but I figured if you wanted to let everybody know live tonight, it's up.
It's
for
there.
you.
So anyone interested, and I appreciate you surprising me with something I can smile about. But seriously, I mean, it's not.
Mr. Vasanella, I'm going to interrupt you
Go
for
ahead.
1 second. Assemblyman Danielson is watching, and he says there's practically no sound on the live feed. So I don't know if the videographer has any control of that. It may be something at the cable station, but if you can correct that, that would be great. Excuse me.
No, that was an important interruption. So anyway, but please, I mean, there, you know, even if you don't use it, you may know of somebody, again, whether it's young kids home alone after school or an elderly person or whoever. You know, it's a nice thing to take advantage of if you don't want to be bothered in that way. Real quick on John Clyde, obviously a lot has been said. I mean, I don't think there's too much more I can contribute, but I'll tell you, I remember before I was actively involved in a way I've been for a while in the town and the community and politics. I was just way in the background, and decades ago I remember hearing about this young guy, and he was very young when he first ran, John Clyde. You know, he I don't know, he looked like he had long hair, and he looked like he just looked like a kid. But because I remember looking, I'm handing out flyers for this guy. He looks younger than me. At the time, I'm like, you know, only older people were.
I'm pretty sure he was in his 20s.
But yes, he really was probably one of the youngest.
23 or 24. I was a year out of Georgetown.
So he was one of the youngest council person, if not the youngest ever to be appointed. And, you know, although I don't want to dwell on that aspect, when most of my work, all my work, involvement with John has been when he wasn't on council as far as working with him. And the one thing that I remember is when, going back 10, 11 years ago, we came up with the idea, and the Environmental Commission and myself and John worked out the, I think it was called the Green Summit, back before all these green things were quite as popular as they have become, understandably, in the last decade. And I believe it was the origin of the first, because we had a Green Summit here during the day, a bunch of experts in here and discussions, and it was really good. And some of the ideas that were discussed then were actually starting to come to be in this town, and I'm sure others. But point is, every time there was some obstacle, John was the common sense focused person at the table, because like all events, it takes a lot of planning. But that was the origin, I believe, for handing out the Environmental Stewardship Awards. I believe the first one was at that Green Summit of sorts. But and ironically, John received that just a few months before his passing. But anyway, he was a unique person, and definitely someone who went way beyond what most of us, even those of us who put a lot of time into this town, he over the decades has put in quite a bit of time and passion into this town, and especially the environmental and land preservation aspects and trails and God knows a lot of other things. Anyway, moving along, Mr. Kelly, former Mayor Kelly, I believe that there's support, and I'm expecting it to be unanimous for your concerns with 6 Mile Run. And thanks for giving a little, although I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, I know about 6 Mile Run. there's things I don't know about it, and a lot of people in town may not be aware of the history, so thanks for keeping that in the spotlight, and I'm hopeful that that would pass tonight. Glasses, I'm sorry. Mr. Grippo, I don't know, he's gone, and so are the other people, but John, Bill, all the people involved there, Mike, and everyone, thank you. That was a gift that's going to be around for a long time to come, and I'm looking forward to hearing that cliche band music on the 4th of July as we all roll into the municipal building. And now we'll be here before we know it. Somebody mentioned the empty bowls thing came up. I forget who mentioned it, but I was at, yes, Mr. Seaman, I was volunteering at a fundraising event at St. Matthias over the weekend, and I read the flyer because they were promoting it, and I had never heard of it, and it sounds like a wonderful, not only a wonderful event, a wonderful angle to approach it, because whenever you could bring artists together and conscientious people in an event that they could walk away with something, because, you know, it's all nice to come to events, but sometimes it means a little more and stays with you, the meaning of it, when you kind of walk home with a gift or a token that will keep in mind what it was all about to begin with. So I hope that turns into an event that we could be proud of every year in this town. Moving along, much was given on the reports. Hamilton Street we discussed last night as far as getting kind of a general agreement of how we, Hamilton Board and the town, are going to help get up these poles that will be able to be used not only for decorations, but to publicize the many events going on in Franklin in the Hamilton zone. So hopefully that will go through as talked about last night's budget meeting. And at Schoolhouse, I remember meetings where we discussed years ago where it came very close to being gone, and it has survived. There was an understandable desire to, you know, do something with it or get rid of it, and, you know, a lot of us were like, well, let's hold out, and maybe now there'll be something that can come of it, because it is part of Franklin's history. There was a few other issues in the Hamilton. I don't want to get into a lot of it now. I think Councilman mentioned a couple of things. There is some major zoning, possible zoning changes that are being considered, and my understanding is we'll be having some meetings, whether it's in the form of a town hall or through the Hamilton meeting or a special meeting, and hopefully having them here and televised, and the people that will be greatly affected if indeed any changes are done with the zoning. We did some zoning changes a few years ago, which led to some of the construction, and now there's some other possible changes. So hopefully the people will come out that are most affected by that in the coming months when we do have some public discussion on it. And thinking that is all I got, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, before you move on to you, and I know you can shake your head if you want to, but Councilman Vassanella just brought up a beautiful point. If you don't come and speak out at these particular sessions on Hamilton Street, you give up your right to speak out indefinitely, because once it's built, it's built. So I would advise you that if you come out and speak on something, please do so. Come out and voice your concern, because again, if you don't come out, you miss that opportunity, and you have to live with whatever we put down on that street, behind the street, and you won't have anything to say. So please, once again, there's my soapbox. You gotta come out and talk. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay. Tomorrow night, there will be a joint meeting of the Trails Advisory Committee and the Open Space Advisory Committee. And the topic that I'm most interested in there is consideration of naming something after John Clyde. It will be discussed, and there's two public sessions at that meeting, so you'll have the opportunity to weigh in on that. I wrote a letter you know, we got 2 Democrats on the Freeholder Board, so I thought I'd write them a letter, and I sent one to Mayor Levine, since he lives in Franklin, or Mayor Levine, Freeholder Levine, since he lives in Franklin. There were 2 main items I covered. One is Easton Avenue. There's a walkway along Easton Avenue. It's always littered. There's kind of this long-term disagreement as to whether the town should clean it up, whether the county should clean it up. So I just asked to have a meeting about that, and rather than, well, let's say we need further discussion to get that meeting going. And then South Middlebush Road, and I know this is something Councilman Chase and Councilman Only Jaka would be interested in, since it's right on the border of wards 1 and 3, and that's the turn lane on Jakes and Cordeloo. I asked for turn bypass lanes, and they said, oh no, we're considering a turn lane in the middle of the street rather than on the side of the street. I really didn't care how it was performed. The manager, knowing this person, has told me he will speak directly to the person. They said this is on the books for 2022. Well, let's see if we can get that moved up a little bit. You can get major backups on South Middlebush. I'm sure Mayor Kelly knows that. And this would greatly hasten it. So I'm putting my heart forward on that. Mayoral appointments. I've been a little remiss in my mayoral appointments. There's an item for it at the end, but I thought I'd just take care of it here. First, I would like to commend Alex Carazzi. We're speaking of John Clyde tonight. Alex did a very Clydean thing. John Clyde often would step down from an appointment because someone else wanted it. He was not about ego. He was about getting people involved. And Mr. Carazzi has done the same. He has been my representative since I've been mayor on planning board. I point this way because that's where he sits. He graciously said, if someone else wants it, let someone else have a turn. I appreciate that very much. And I have chosen Meher Rafiq, a brilliant woman. From the time I spent with her, I learned that, who I think has many great qualities and will take the mayoral position on the planning board. Then for the one-year position on the library board, Kevin McNeil, and I've given the clerk these names and addresses and phone numbers so she can get to them, but I didn't want to announce those in public. And then in the very honored seat, the last seat that John Clyde held was the 5-year term on the library board, and I am giving that to Mr. Tom Lennon. First of all, something was said about not politicking here. That is, that's up to you. I don't necessarily condone it, but I don't say not to do it, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but we have to be very careful here. We cannot appear to be censoring people, to be editing people. You have a right to speak about anything related to government. So I don't want those words misunderstood to someone feel like their First Amendment rights have been violated. And right now I'm shaking, and it's not because it's freezing here. I'm shaking about the words about racism. It's a terrible thing to call someone a racist when they're not. It's a very difficult thing to defend against because It's like, how do you say I've never done that? You can't prove that you've never done something. You can prove that you've done something, but you'd have to review a whole life in order to prove that you've never done something. And when an argument comes down to, because someone disagrees with you, that you call them a racist, then the person calling the other a racist, if that's all they've got, has lost the argument. I did watch that Human Relations meeting. It was brought to my attention. I watched the video, and it was disgraceful. And whether I agree or disagree with the people coming here, there has been no issues of hate, no issues of racism, and anyone who says that is adding division and divisiveness to this town. This town went through a police shooting of a citizen with some protest, some people being upset, a march, but people were calm. This town relishes its diversity, and people, it is dangerous to call people racist when they are not. It is important to point out racism when it exists. And I don't pretend that racism doesn't exist in the town. Of course it does. It exists everywhere. But those embers are fanned when someone calls someone a racist and it doesn't exist. And if you do it over and over and over again, like any lie, people begin to believe it. So that needs to stop. If someone is a racist and that they've made a statement and you can show it, then that needs to be brought out. But when someone says something that way, people on the Human Relations Committee have taken the Stand for the Other pledge, and they should speak out if someone inappropriately says comments like the ones that I saw. Not taking a side here, but what I am saying is that we need to be careful. Those statements cause harm. Thank you. Township Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish that the gentleman was still here so I could let him know that the Attorney General directive on the Immigrant Trust Directive for law enforcement was issued at the end of November. Since that time, all of our police officers have been fully trained in the directive, as would be the normal course of business on all Attorney General directives. So I know firsthand from the Chief of Police that all of our police officers are fully familiar with the Attorney General directive as it relates to interaction with immigrants and ICE. So just wanted to give you some confirmation on that. In reference to one, I think it was Councilman Wright and also Deputy Mayor Vassanella mentioned a meeting about Hamilton Street and proposed changes. Really what that meeting is that we have obviously employed the services of an economic development consultant as it relates to not only Hamilton Street, but also the business district and the World's Fair Drive and Davidson Avenue area. Forward Planning will be making a presentation to the Hamilton Street Advisory Board on March 11th at 7 p.m. here in the municipal chambers, and all of the public is invited to attend, but most importantly, we encourage those that live within the business district to come out and hear that presentation, both from the advisory board and our planning consultant, Forward Planning. There is one other kind of government announcement, and that is that The Shade Tree Commission is once again sponsoring their tree sale this for the spring. The deadline for applications is March 15th. The 5 trees this year that are available will be honey locust, red maples, pin oaks, and then ornamental trees, snowbird, hawthorns, and eastern redbuds. The trees are $40 a piece. The order form is available online on the main page of the website on the right-hand side. If you click on that, it'll bring you to the PDF to send in if you're interested in purchasing one of these trees. The shade trees are 5 to 7 feet. The ornamental trees 5 to 6 feet, so a nice sized tree to plant in your yard and a nice way to support the Shade Tree Commission. So I encourage anyone who would like to plant a tree in their yard to do so through the Shade Tree Commission. And the last is I would like to wish a happy birthday to the man who looks over my shoulder every council meeting, Abraham Lincoln. Today's his birthday, so happy birthday, Abe. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Abe. Approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes for approval by the Township Council. Township Council Executive Minutes of January 7th, 2000, and I presume that's 19, and then Township Council Work Session Regular Minutes of January 22nd, 2019 at 7 p.m. And the Township Council Executive Minutes of that same date, January 22nd. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion or corrections on the minutes? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, do your job.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella? Councilman Wright?
Yes.
We are now on to the approval of the warrants. Warrants in the amount of $15,722,742.91 on February 12th, 2019 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconds?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item or question an item? I would just like to point out the biggest items that we are paying for this time are things like to the library board and other government entities. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella? Councilman Wright?
Okay. Ms. Mitchell, you have waited patiently because it is now time for the SFY 2019 Community Development Block Grant Program. Program schedule presented by Ms. Mitchell.
Good evening. I'm here tonight once again for our Community Development Block Grant Program. This is in preparation for our 2019 action plan that will be upcoming for this year. The Township of Franklin is an entitlement community under the federal regulations for the Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Office of Community Planning and Development. The township qualifies as an entitlement community because its population exceeds the threshold of 50,000 people. The township grant amount is determined by a formula basis, and it's based on 2 of the following factors: overcrowded housing, population, and poverty, or age of housing, population growth lag, and poverty. Last year, the township received $255,415 to assist with the needs of the low and moderate income residents of Franklin Township. Tonight, we're setting the schedule for the 2015 action plan, and we're also later to solicit any public comments on the continued activities of the Community Development Block Grant Program. Our application for the this year's program will be posted on the township website shortly, and copies have been made available at the township clerk's office and here at council meeting tonight. Our applicants will make their presentation to council on March 26, 2019. Subsequently, we will prepare an action plan and submit it to council for approval on June 25th, 2019. The program year will then follow beginning on September 1st, 2019. All of this is predicated, of course, on the federal government approving a timely 2019 budget and getting that information to us so that we can proceed with our action plan.
And not being in a shutdown.
Yes, they do, and they did go back to work, but the question is, for how long will they be there this time? I'm very hopeful that he won't do that again.
So,
yes.
a public hearing is in order on the CDBG schedule. Do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opening the meeting for public discussion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open to the public for comments on this issue. Mr. Jallo, Mayor Kelly, any comments? Seeing none? Hello? Any motion to close the public session?
Motion to close the public.
Seconded.
Moved in, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed on this. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for waiting. Public hearing and adoption on ordinances on second reading. This is when the public gets to speak about these second readings. An ordinance to acquire by purchase or condemnation certain lands within the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, or open space purposes in the Township of Franklin pursuant to NJSA 40A 12-13A, known as Block 282, Lot 8, 15 Waldorf Street, is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required, and this is to buy a small piece of property near the baseball park. To have a motion to open for public hearing.
So moved. Seconded.
Moved in, seconded. Any discussion on opening public hearing? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. We are now open for public discussion on this item only. Mayor Kelly's not getting up.
Mayor, seeing no public come forward, can a motion to close the public comment portion? Thank you.
Seconded.
Moved in, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion is carried. Public session is closed. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved in, seconded. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella? Councilman Wright?
Carried. Now we have to pay for it. Capital ordinance providing for the acquisition of property known as Block 282, Lot 8, and in and by the Township of Franklin and County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, appropriating $49,000, therefore, from the Open Space Trust Fund of the Township to pay the cost thereof. 15 Waldorf Street is presented for public hearing and final adoption. Public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are open to the public on this item only.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no public come forward.
I have a
make
motion to close public portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing, say aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella? Councilman Wright?
Now we're going to do the same two ordinances, but this time for the Lewis Street to be a parking lot lands. An ordinance to acquire by purchase or condemnation certain lands within the Township of Franklin, Somerset County for municipal purposes in the Township of Franklin pursuant to NJSA 40A 12-13A, known as Block 228, Lot 17 through 24, is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. To have a motion to open to the public.
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on moving open to the public? Seeing none. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We're open to the public.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no public come forward, motion to close public comments portion.
Looking for a second.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing the public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item? This is for the property for parking lots for the youth center. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Capital, now we got to pay for it. Capital ordinance appropriating $605,000 for the capital fund balance and capital improvement fund, providing for the acquisition of property known as 228, lots 17 through 24, 150 Shivanko, thank you, Avenue, Lewis Street, as well as the design and construction of a parking lot on the site in Somerset, New Jersey, and by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, the Township of Franklin to pay for the cost thereof is presented to the public hearing and final adoption. Public hearing has been noticed as required. Do a motion to open to the public?
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are open to the public.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward from the public, I'll motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
That's how it's
Seconded.
done. Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public portion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. We were lost without you, Councilman. So we have a motion
Thank
on
you.
the item.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion on the item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Now our last second reading, our last opportunity for the public to speak. This is 4266-19, amending the Code of the Township of Franklin, Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, and providing new Section 226-35, Road Closures except for emergency vehicles, providing for the closure of Willow Avenue to all traffic except emergency vehicles, is presented to the public is presented for public hearing and final adoption. A public hearing has been noticed as required. Do a motion to open to the public?
Motion, Mr.
Motion
Mayor.
for opening it up to the
That's a
public.
motion and a second. All in favor, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We're open to the public on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one from the public coming forward, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public portion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item? This is a portion of Willow that goes beyond any exits for Willow, and people go down there thinking there's a way out and then turn around and come back even faster. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We're now on to ordinances on first reading, ordinance 4268-19. Councilman Galtieri, this is your fault. You read it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an ordinance establishing the Stronger Together program in the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey.
The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, February 26, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Mr. Councilman Galtieri, will you please explain the ordinance?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So, again, this is not an original concept in Franklin, but many other towns have started with the rise of installations of doorbells or doorbell cameras such as Rings, Nest, and other devices, and video recording and just overall video surveillance around houses and businesses. This is creating an opportunity for residents to voluntarily register their cameras with the police department, informing the department that they have a camera, essentially making it a little easier for the police department that if an incident happens in the neighborhood, the police will know to what houses have a camera available or might that they could contact the resident to ask them to review their camera footage and voluntarily hand over anything that they might see during a time frame. So this is strictly a voluntary basis. There's no fee associated with this, but it is to help make our neighborhoods a little safer and help the police department expedite their investigations. So.
Thank you very much. Would you like to move this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to
Seconded.
accept this.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion on the item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Ordinance 4269-19, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Code Chapter 384, Water, more particularly Section 384-19, Curb Connection Capital Fees. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, February 12, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion on the item?
So moved for introduction.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So this is basically raising the fee to connect to our water system. And the formula is a state formula. It's basically, the concept is that all the other people who are already in the water system have contributed to the water system and own a part of it. You are now buying in, so you need to pay your fair share. The current capital connection fee is $1,968.90. This is going to go up about $350 to $2,305.04. Yes, it's more money, but it's fair. It's fair to the other water users, in my humble opinion. Last time we changed it was 2013, Mr. Mann.
And Mr. Mayor, those numbers are what are referred to as an equivalent unit. So that would be the equivalent unit is one residential unit. Equivalent units are then used to calculate not only a residential unit, but any other type of building connection that would be made within the township for new construction. For instance, a warehouse would have a different calculation based on that equivalent unit and would cost more than a single-family home. And that equivalent unit calculation is what you were referring to as coming from the state formula.
Yes, thank you. Well said. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yep.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, this next one's for the pool at Williams Park. Capital ordinance appropriating $110,000 from Open Space Trust Fund to pay for critical repairs to the pool at Williams Park for the Township of Franklin and the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. The foregoing ordinance presents the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, February 12th, 2019 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Mr. Wright, would you like to move this one? Mr. Wright.
Sorry?
I thought you might
Amendment
like to
move.
move this one.
Seconded.
Did he read it?
Oh, yeah, ooh. That's, right. Ooh.
What?
I was reading another one.
No, so a little correction here. I'm reading the script blindly, and thank you, Mr. Attorney. On the last ordinance and on this ordinance, I said February 12th is the hearing. Obviously, that's not correct.
The
It's February 26th. My mistake. So on both the last one and this one, I assume we don't have to revote on the last one. Okay. And on this one, it's February 26th, and I'm sorry, did we get a motion in a second?
Yes. Yes.
So moved.
No, we have a motion and a second already.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Hearing no other discussion, Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yep.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
And now the last introduction, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 112, Land Development, Section 112-6, Zoning Map. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do we have a motion?
17?
So moved.
It's April 9th, 2019 at 7 p.m. We have a motion?
19.
April 9th,
April 9th, 2019. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
So, discussion. This is rezoning some land in 3 different places in town to be more commensurate with the properties around it, is the short form.
I've explained this in my council report.
Right. And this has gone through planning and it's.
This is a recommendation of the planning board based on the reexamination of the master plan. All of these changes are recommended by the planning board. And then from this meeting will be, there'll be a review of the ordinance by the planning board, and then you can subsequently have a public hearing and vote on it in April. That's why the delay with the normal course of business.
So any other discussion on this item?
No, just a quick question. Is the planning board?
There is not a public hearing for the planning board, no.
No public comment at the planning
No,
board?
because they already did, this is as a result of their
I understand.
examination of the master plan, so therefore there is no call for a hearing at the planning board.
According to procedure, council introduces, and then a zoning change must be forwarded to the planning board to certify that it is in accordance with the master plan, even if the planning board presented it, originally recommended this.
Okay, correct.
Our director of planning recommended it. So that step has to happen before council can pass it.
Procedure.
Exactly.
Procedure.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yep.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, before we go on to the consent agenda, I'd like to make a motion to declare Councilwoman Pruitt crazy because she is on vacation and she has had the diligence to be on the phone both for yesterday's meeting and today's meeting. This was a vacation that she had planned before the opening even came up for her spot. So, of course, she's going to take the vacation, but she's taking time from her vacation to do this, and that-
And Mr.
that's-
Mayor, just privately, I have received a photograph of the location at which Councilwoman Pruitt is currently listening to us, and I will say that I am incredibly jealous of Councilwoman Pruitt right now, beyond all words.
So I'm going to change the motion to let's all hate her.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Well, last night, I hope it was in a later time zone.
It's actually mid-afternoon on the other side of the
Right.
earth.
She's missing
They're 5
sunset or
hours
something.
behind us.
All right, here we go. Enough frivolities. The consent agenda resolutions, items A through Z, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Anyone want to pull an item, discuss an item? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Okay, we are now on to resolutions to be voted on separately. The following resolution is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Resolution 19-74, award bid 2019 consultant administrative agent for affordable housing, Central Jersey Housing Resource Center, amount not to exceed $61,800. Do we have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the item? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Abstain?
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Okay, we are now on to the Kelly resolution. The following resolution is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Resolution 19-88, support, maintenance, preservation, and restoration of 6 Mile Run. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded for discussion. So I'm the one who actually put this on the agenda. Mayor Kelly obviously can't put that on now. He contacted me and I put it on, and in the spirit of bipartisanship and just because it's a great idea, I did put it on. But I put it on to be voted on separately because it deals with open space. Now, it doesn't deal with township open space, but it does deal with open space. And as Mayor Kelly pointed out, we're not using any open space funds. But I have always been a stickler about going to open space first for discussion. There was a email back and forth between the manager and the chairman of the Open Space Committee and a couple of key players on the Open Space Committee. And the general consensus was, since it isn't township open space, that this is appropriate to not go to open space first. However, if any, I put this on the agenda so I can pull it from the agenda by myself. If any council member is uncomfortable with this, or if any council member feels that they would like to get the opinion of open space before they vote on it, then I will gladly pull it from the agenda. Now would be the time to speak up. Hearing nothing, any other discussion on this? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt. Deputy Mayor Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Congratulations,
Yes.
Mayor Clyde.
Mayor.
Kelly, wow. I have him on my mind. It is absolutely a compliment. Okay, the following resolution is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Resolution 19-90, authorized release of Summerfield, release subject to receipt of a 2-year maintenance bond. Summerfield's at Franklin, letter of credit 971 SB, Phase 2, Section C, single, what? That's it? Single, Is that where it ends?
Run out. Single-family homes.
Single-family homes. So this is a bond release? Because this was
Yes,
just,
it's a bond
this was
release.
just added. So this is a bond release. We do these all the time. Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Councilwoman Pruitt? Deputy Mayor Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Absolutely.
Old business, 2019 boards, committees, commission vacancies. Does anyone have a nomination? Hearing no nominations, mayor's appointments, I've already done them. Executive session, we have none. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. Be well, Franklin.
Okay, we're
Oh, it
done,
must
so
not
you can
be
go
turned
enjoy the
on to
day.
these. It was